The axe. Among the oldest of human tools, it's helped people shape their home and work environments for millennia. Craftsmen created different axes to suit every job. Some had thick, wedge-shaped blades for felling trees. Others had broad or narrow cutting edges to shape timber. Many trades use their own axes. Boat builders, coachmakers, coopers, chairmakers, and even butchers use specialized axes for their daily tasks. This is the story of one axe that built an American icon. Jacob Sibley's axe is one of only 3 surviving tools used to construct USS Constitution, the oldest commissioned warship afloat in the world. Sibley was no stranger to the smell of freshly cut wood. Born in 1746 on Sibley Hill in Stratham, New Hampshire, he worked to build the first bridge across the Winnipesaukee River in 1764. In 1771, he hewed a homestead out of the wilderness of Hopkinton, New Hampshire, a town so remote that he and his wife had to walk 2 miles on a narrow path through the woods to reach their home. While Sibley built a life in Hopkinton, trouble was brewing for American sailors half a world away. In the early 1790s, corsairs from the Barbary states of North Africa began to prey on American merchant ships trading in the Mediterranean. Determined to protect American interests in the region, Congress authorized the construction of 6 frigates. Looking for a steady job with good wages, Jacob Sibley headed south in 1795 to work on the frigate Constitution. At Edmund Hart's Boston shipyard, he encountered scores of carpenters, joiners, sawyers, and caulkers at work on the biggest ship ever built in the town. Sibley tucked this sturdy boat builder's axe into his tool chest. With a wide blade and an angled haft, the axe allowed its user to hew or square fallen tree trunks. The iron axe head features a steel cutting edge, welded to a blade with a gracefully curving shoulder. Steel is harder and stronger than iron, and holds a sharp edge. Years of use and thousands of swings smoothly polished the hickory haft. This axe is more than a mere tool. Its contours conceal a story of industry and labor, of fresh starts and old traditions. From its keen blade and the muscles and skill of its wielder rose an enduring symbol of the American Navy. Blacksmiths long understood that fire can lead to both flexibility and strength. Heat softens iron, allowing the smith to work it into any shape he can imagine. Quenching the iron in oil or water quickly hardens the piece again. A second heating then gives it a temper, a combination of hardness and elasticity that makes it durable enough to tackle difficult jobs. Generations of metalworkers around the globe learned and improved these techniques, leading to the blossoming output of iron goods in the industrial era. By the middle of the 18th century, English toolmakers, especially those working in the manufacturing towns of Sheffield and Birmingham, began to craft strong, well-made axes for export. While English tools dominated American hardware stores for decades, domestic blacksmiths also produced tools for local use. Several clues suggest an American smith made Jacob Sibley's axe. The lack of a maker's mark, or name on the axe, and the crudeness of the blade weld and finish point to local manufacture. But crude or not, the axe maker had to apply the art and mystery of his craft in a series of complex steps. To make an axe, the blacksmiths first light a fire of bituminous coal in the forge. Taking 2 bars of wrought iron, the smiths prepare the work by heating them till red hot. After heating the bars, the smith and the striker, that is, the fellow worker who wields the 8-pound sledgehammer, form the axe's eyes and ears. Next, they pound the blade from top and side to give it a more defined shape. They draw out the blade and square the pole. The two pieces go back into the forge, and the blacksmiths weld together the eye and the pole. With a drift, or form, they give shape to the eye that will accept the haft. Most wrought iron axes also featured a cutting bit of steel to add strength and hold a sharp edge. The smiths sandwiched the sharp steel blade between the iron. The smith heats the axe and files its surface smooth. Now he must heat treat the blade to make it more durable. It's heated to a cherry red and then quenched in oil. After a woodworker fits the hickory handle, the well-made axe is ready for years of productive labor in the hands of its owner. During the administration of George Washington, the new federal government tried to increase revenue and decrease the national debt, all while staying out of European wars. Most of the nation's income came from taxes and duties on trade. Faced with growing dangers to its expanding merchant fleet, in 1794, the United States embarked on a warship building program. These new ships, strong, heavily armed, and fast, would protect American commerce and interests around the Atlantic world. For a nation with no naval infrastructure, no designated dockyards, and little industry capable of sustaining a fleet, creating and maintaining even one massive ship seemed a Herculean task. Constitution's builders needed wood from as many as 1,500 mature trees. Fortunately, America's forests contained plenty of tall trees for masts and durable wood for hulls. Joshua Humphreys, the Philadelphia shipwright who designed the ships, called for 7 types of wood, each with a specific use. They needed pitch pine from the Carolinas, white pine and cedar from Maine and New Hampshire, white oak from New York, New Jersey, and New England, and most important of all, live oak from Georgia. All had to be cut and transported to 6 different East Coast shipyards. Timber merchants looked for trees felled in late autumn or winter when the sap had ceased to run. It made for stronger wood, they thought, and helped it season faster. Across New England, the woods rang with the sound of axes from December to February. To fell a tree, the axeman first made a wedge-shaped cut in the direction he wanted the tree to fall. When halfway through the trunk, he began a back cut opposite and slightly above the first cut. This created a hinge and controlled the direction of the fall. When the tree at last came crashing down, men worked to limb it, taking care to preserve the wood where large limbs joined the trunk. Curved timbers served an important function in a ship's structure, providing knees, breast hooks, and transom pieces, all essential for making a durable ship. Straight trees, called standards by woodsmen, provided other important parts for the hull, such as beams, stem and stern posts, and planking. To bring tree trunks to the proper dimensions, the hewers stepped in. First, they secured the log using iron hewing dogs, and scribed or chalked the final dimensions needed on the trunk. Using an axe, they made a series of vertical cuts at short intervals along the length of the log. Taking a side axe or broad axe, they worked parallel to the log, carefully removing unwanted wood to make the log square. When they finished one side, the hewers turned the log and continued with the next. Teams of oxen or horses dragged the hewed timber from the woods. But poor roads made land carriage laborious and expensive. Most timber traveled by water in the hold of ships or in log rafts. As wood from across the nation converged at the shipyard, Another team of skilled carpenters, sawyers, and joiners worked together to craft the raw timbers into a strong and beautiful vessel. Although the axemen who trekked into the woods to cut these trees worked with nothing more than sharp blades and human muscle, over time their labors changed the face of the land. When European colonists first settled in New England in the first half of the 17th century, they expressed amazement at what seemed to them a limitless supply of timber. By 1800, most of the forests near settled areas had been eradicated or significantly reduced by burning, grazing, and cutting. Fireplaces and industry required fuel. House wrights and shipbuilders needed thousands of straight and crooked trees. No forest was impervious to the relentless consumption and the woodsman's axe. New sources of fuel and a decline in farming in the late 19th and 20th centuries allowed trees to return in many areas. Today, the northern forests have regained a foothold, swallowing up the fallow fields and pastures riven from the woods so long ago. Constitution endures as well, thanks to the timber harvested by the axe and the axemen.